Hey guys, how are we doing? I am Nathan Saltzman. This is Major League Talk, talking Major League Baseball and pennant races coming up. Yes, I know football started today. Most people are probably watching Sunday Night Football. I even have it on in the background. But even if SportsCenter won't admit it, baseball is still going on right now. There is a pennant race going on. It's week one of football. Very exciting baseball. We are going to talk a lot of it. We're gonna go over postseason as is right now, what changes. We're gonna talk about the AL East races quickly becoming exciting. Talk about Stephen Strasburg. Was it too early to shut him down? And of course, as I always do with my show, we are gonna end with the power rankings. So let's jump right in. Postseason picture today. What is gonna change by the end of the season? So let's go over it right now. Let's start in the AL. Right now, the wild card would be the A's at the Baltimore Orioles, the winner of that will then play the Texas Rangers, and the other ALDS game would be the Yankees and White Sox. So we'll talk about that right now. Wild card game to start off, A's, Orioles. Two really surprising teams. The A's coming out of the AL West started about halfway through the season, getting hot, and have since pushed the Angels out of the playoffs and have even threatened the Rangers at times. They're still not that far behind. And, of course, the Baltimore Orioles, who, as I've always said, on paper, should not be a good team. Their run differential is off the charts bad, but somehow they're doing it. They're putting runs together. They have an amazing record in one-run games, and they are getting it done. But I still don't believe that either of these teams will be in the playoffs by the time the postseason comes. I truthfully believe that the A's nor the Angels are going to make it into the playoffs, so the Rangers taking that. I think the Orioles are going to be out of it as well. It is going to be the Rays and the Tigers in the wild card race, I believe. Even though the Tigers haven't had the season that most people thought they would have, many people thought that they would end up having one of the best seasons in baseball. Still have had a good season and are a great team. People need to watch out for them. I think they're going to play the Rays in that wild card game. It's going to be good. Moving on, the team that will play or wins the wild card will play the Rangers. I think the Rangers, the only team that could really at the moment take over the NL West slot is the A's, and I don't think they're going to make the playoffs at all. I think the Angels have fallen apart too much. It's going to take a lot for them to come back. I think that's not going to change. As for that other ALDS game, Yankees White Sox, I think that's probably going to stay the same as well. The Yankees have faltered a bit and have been pressured a little bit by the Rays, and the Orioles have really come on strong lately. In fact, the Yankees just split a series with the Orioles, I believe, to keep first place in the East. And then the White Sox, of course. At first, not a lot of people were buying them, thinking that, the Tigers were probably gonna come in and eventually take that vision, and they eventually falter, but they have stayed with it, and I believe in them. They have a young rotation, well, a little bit young. They have a good young leader in Chris Sale, has had a great year, and then some guys who aren't getting a lot of attention, like Jake Peavy. I looked at. I had almost heard nothing about him this season. Then I was watching a game with him. He's had a really good season coming off a few injuries. And then they've got a really young bullpen with a lot of hard throwers. They got a good offense that's got a good mix of veterans and young guys. I think they're a good team. I think they're going to win that AL Central in front of the Tigers, who will be in that wild card game. So that is my AL postseason predictions. Let's move to the NL. Predictions there at the moment. The wild card game is set to be the Braves and the Cardinals. The NLCS being the Giants, or one game being the Giants and the Reds, and then the winner of the wildcard game, which again is the Braves and Cardinals, will play the Nationals, who have their best record in baseball. And I am going to say, at the moment, that looks about right to me. I think that in any other division except for the AL West or the NL Central, the Braves would be in the lead, and they are a very, very strong team. They have a great back end of the bullpen with a bunch of hard throwers. Their lineup is a little aging at times. They got some older guys, but at the same time, they have a good mix of young guys in there. And the Cardinals, a lot of people were writing them off as the Pirates having a great season, but I said then, I'm not just making this up to look good, but I really believed that the Cardinals were going to take that away from the Pirates, and I think they're going to finish strong. Remember last year, everyone forgot about the Cardinals' great comeback against the Braves, who fell apart in the wild card because the Red Sox were getting a lot more attention. It's part of the East Coast bias, but Cardinals came back from way down in the standings. They came back and won the World Series. They are very, very dangerous team. Watch out for them. So I think they will play the Angels, who will play the Nationals, who are the best team in baseball, even without Stephen Strasburg, who we are going to get to later. That other wild card game, Reds, Giants, that looks right to me as well. A lot of people thought that after that trade, the Dodgers were going to take off and leave the Giants to the dust. It has been the absolute opposite. The Giants, who just played the Dodgers, are really starting to get a lead on them. I believe it's at it's at 4.5 games right now. I don't think the Dodgers, even with all that, are going to come back and take the Giants. I do think it'll get a little bit closer. It might come down to that final series in San Francisco. But I think the Giants have that, and not a lot of competition in the NL Central. Of course, like I said, the Cardinals are a really good team, but I don't think they're going to touch the Reds for the lead of that division. The Cardinals are going to stay in that NL wild card and face the Braves in what should be a good matchup. So there's the playoffs predictions. The AL is going to change a bit, as I've said, but the NL will probably not change much. If at all, it'll probably be in the NL West. If the Dodgers can really start their offense going, it'll be a good them versus the Giants. Let's move on now. We're going to talk about the AL East race. A few months ago, this looked like a division that the Yankees had locked up totally. They had a big lead on the Rays and Orioles. And a lot of people were saying, the Yankees are just going to cruise to this and cruise into the playoffs. Not the case anymore. They just split a series with the Baltimore Orioles. They won today, but they have only a 1-game lead over the Orioles. And don't forget about the Tampa Bay Rays, who are only 2 games back and a very dangerous team. They are 1 back of the wild card. That is going to be one of the best races to watch coming down the stretch. Actually, at the moment, probably the only race in all of baseball with 2 teams in it at the moment. Unless you can, I guess you could say the NL Central of Pittsburgh, they're only 2.5 games out, even though they've faded a little bit. They've lost 3 in a row. They're 3 in their last 7 games. 3 and 7 in their last 10 games. You could say that has 3 teams. And then, if you think the Angels, who are actually closer than I thought, they're only a game back the wild card at the moment, but they've won 6 in a row now. But it's going to be something that they're going to have to put a streak. So I guess you could say 1 or 2 other divisions have 3 teams. But the only one where it's really, really close right now is the Rays, Orioles, and Yankees. And I think this is going to come down to the end. I think, everyone, especially me, keeps saying, the Orioles are going to fade eventually, and, they don't have a good team. And they don't have a good team. On paper, that, who's in that rotation? Their best pitcher at the beginning of the season, or their best pitcher is Wei-Yin Chin, some rookie, that wasn't supposed to really factor in that much to their season. He leads their team in wins right now. And the only guy who's really had a career year out there is Jim Johnson, their closer, who, to his credit, he's had an absolutely fantastic year. He's probably the second best closer in all baseball now, behind Fernando Rodney, who's having a spectacular for the Rays. But the Orioles are one of those teams who no one is really having a great year, but they're somehow putting it together. They're one of those teams under Buck Showalter that just knows how to win. And it's the same with the Rays. The Rays have a lot better pitching staff than the Orioles. A lot better. They have a lot of good young pitching. The Orioles have young pitchers, but nowhere near the caliber of the Rays. The Rays, when they're completely healthy, have some guys like David Price, Jeremy Hellickson. If you remember, a few years ago, was one of the highest touted prospects in the league. Matt Moore was the number 1 prospect coming into the season, or maybe number 2 behind Mike Trout. A really good young rotation. Somehow they put together a bullpen every year. I don't know how they do it. A few years ago, they lost 8 guys, came back with a very, very strong bullpen. But 2 teams that just know how to win, somehow keeping up with the Yankees, who just need to throw money around and then they can win with that gigantic payroll. But this is a good race. I believe it's going to come down. I don't think the Orioles are going to make the playoffs, like I said. I think the Rays are going to take that first wild card. Too dangerous under Joe Madden. I just don't think the Orioles can sustain it. I think the Yankees, even though they're fading, are going to limp into the playoffs. But I would not be surprised at all if the White Sox come in and just destroy the Yankees in that ALDS. The White Sox have been a good team lately, even though they just lost to the Rays today, or to the Royals today. It's going to be good in the ALDS. I think the Rays are going to be able to take that from the Orioles, that wild card spot, and they're going to be in the playoffs. All right, let's move on. You've heard the AL East. We're going to move on to an NL East topic now. Stephen Strasburg. Too early to shut him down. So a few days ago, Davey Johnson said that he's going to shut down Strasburg a start early after he lasted just 3 innings in his last start. So was it too early to shut him down? It was only 1 start earlier than expected, but a lot of people thinking that Strasburg should have been let to go the entire season, finish off and go into the playoffs. I actually think it was too late to shut him down. They should have shut him down earlier and saved him for the playoffs. I would have much rather, I bet, I'm not a Nationals fan, but I bet Nationals fans would have much liked it a lot better to see him shut down a few weeks earlier, maybe mid-August, and then see him pitch in the playoffs. Start a few games in the playoffs. Maybe even if you shut him down early enough, see him start in all your big games. Start game 1 of the NLDS, CS, and maybe even the World Series if they get there. I think that would have been better for the Nationals. So letting him pitch into September in a division that they almost have locked up. I mean, it's going to take a lot from the Braves, who are 5.5 games back, to win that division. It's not impossible. And even if the Braves do come in, you got to think the Nationals would still make the wild card. But you got to think that it wouldn't it have been better just to let Strasburg pitch, or not let him pitch late into this season, and just set him down earlier and let him pitch in the playoffs when the games are a lot more important than they are now. I don't think that they should have let him go the entire time, but you do want to save him. You don't want him to get injured now and risk your future, risk future playoffs and future seasons because you lost your ace to an injury. He's already had Tommy John surgery. You don't want that to happen again. So I think it was the right decision to shut him down before, the playoffs, but I think they shut him down too late at this point. I think they should have shut him down earlier, let him pitch in the playoffs. I've said this before. So there, you've heard my opinion on Stephen Strasburg. We're going to move on now to another topic. You know what? Let's go ahead and talk about the NL races. You know what? Actually, let's skip that. Let's talk about something else. Let's talk about Brendan McCarthy and his injury. Do you think that pitchers need more protection? Now, I'm not a pitcher. I play baseball, but I am not a pitcher. But do you not think that it would be such a bad idea to let pitchers wear helmets in games? Of course, it's one of those things where it looks weird. It might feel weird, but don't you think it's for the better? And I live in a county where there was a serious injury to a high school pitcher. He got hit in the head. He's been hospitalized. He didn't play baseball for a year. He's had to been pushed back a grade. It's pretty much ruined his entire life and his baseball career because he got hit in the head. And I'm saying this is high school. This is aluminum bats. They've since been banned. But I believe that I think it'd be better to let force pitchers to wear a type of headwear. You don't want these injuries to happen again. I mean, Brendan McCarthy, it said he's been getting better, but this is a life-threatening injury. I mean, there have even been some fielders. John Olerud, who was a really great hitter back in the 1990s, first baseman, wasn't a pitcher, wore a helmet in the field because I believe he had some sort of head problem, might have been in the brain, but he wore a helmet to protect his head. I think that pitchers need to be, have the ability or maybe even be forced to wear head protection just because this is getting out of hand. We're having so many guys get hit, and one day there's